Hello. Welcome to The Alcohol Experiment by Annie Grace. Read to you by me, Melissa O'Malley. For more information, visit alcoholexperiment.com or reach out to me. I'd love to support you. Today is day 16. Day 16. The chapter is titled The Power of Belief. We also have an ACT exercise called Alcohol is My Friend. And we always start with a quote. This one's by Tony Robbins. Beliefs have the power to create the power. Beliefs have the power to create and the power to destroy. Human beings have the awesome ability to take any experience of their lives and create a meaning that disempowers them or one that can literally save their lives. I'm excited for today. Okay, you've heard this before and you'll hear it again. Your mind is incredibly powerful. It can be a staunch ally or your worst enemy, depending on how you use it. The good news is that once you learn how the mind works, you can take control and use its power to change anything in your life. If you believe that you're going to be miserable without a drink in your hand at a social occasion, sporting event, concert, or even home alone, you will be. If you believe you're going to be lonely, you will be. If you believe you're going to be bored, you will be. If you believe this experiment is miserable, it will be. I'm not asking you to counter these beliefs. One second. Sorry. Okay, sorry. The baby's sleeping and my husband texted me. Okay, sorry. That's the problem with doing these live. I'm not asking you to counter these beliefs. Simply thinking, I believe I will be happy without alcohol isn't enough. That's using willpower, and we all know that willpower doesn't last in the long term. Worse, your brain knows you're lying to it. You have to actually believe what you're telling yourself. So, how do you make that happen? Can you actually install new beliefs like you're installing software on a computer? Absolutely. When you start to question your beliefs, you create space in your mind for new beliefs to be installed. Conditioning. Let's talk about conditioning for a moment. Neuropsychologists agree that we spend our lifetimes being conditioned. We're teaching our brains what to expect in any circumstance. Whether what we expect actually happens doesn't matter because we will manufacture circumstances that deliver exactly what we expect. This phenomenon has been studied over and over again. As we just learned, if you expect to be miserable, you will be. If you expect that going alcohol-free for 30 days won't be that big of a deal, it won't be. The ACT technique is designed to help decondition you, to change your beliefs and what you expect. Once you shake the foundations of those conditioned beliefs, you can start to move forward without being hindered by unhealthy and helpful beliefs. A major fear for people when they start the alcohol experiment is that they won't be able to do it. They don't believe it will be possible to stop drinking, even for a short time, because of whatever their circumstances. They don't believe it'll be possible to be alcohol-free and happy at the same time, or alcohol-free and relaxed at the same time. That's a completely understandable fear, but it's based on a false belief. Once you start to see other people being successful, you start to believe you can be successful too. This is what's so great about the alcohol experiment community. You get to see other people who are alcohol-free and happy. They're making it, and you can too. Confirmation bias. So you know you're being conditioned to believe certain things and expect certain things in life. But you also help cement those beliefs into your mind with something called confirmation bias. Have you ever tried to look something up online and stopped looking once you found an article or a website that confirmed what you thought? Take dietary fat, for instance. There are plenty of studies and forums out there that claim fat is bad for you. There are just as many that claim the exact opposite. So which do you believe? You believe what you've been conditioned to believe, unless you're consciously trying to change that conditioning. Confirmation bias doesn't only happen when we're surfing the net or browsing social media. When drinking becomes uncomfortable for us, we develop cognitive dissonance. The mind is uncomfortable because we're wrestling with two conflicting ideas. Alcohol relaxes us versus alcohol is making us miserable. That dissonance is incredibly painful, so the brain looks for ways to ease the pain. How? By looking for confirmation one way or another. Maybe we share social media posts about the benefits of red wine. That confirms wine is good for us, And so the dissonance is eased. Maybe we put funny plaques on the wall like, "Gone drinking, will return when I can't remember why I started." What that does is make us feel better because it's funny, but subconsciously, it also makes us feel weak because it's confirming our belief that we need alcohol to deal with our lives. Recently, I've noticed more and more slogans that are supposed to be funny but really aren't. Quote, "I'm not addicted to wine. We're just in a very committed relationship." Unquote. And quote, "A day without wine is like, just kidding. I have no idea." Unquote. These plaques are for sale for women to put up in their kitchens. The truth is that we're justifying an addiction. We're using confirmation bias to justify heavier and heavier amounts of drinking. Visualization. Now you know the ways you reinforce your beliefs. What are some ways you can go about breaking and reconstructing them? One of my favorite ways is to use visualization. I know that might sound a little woo woo, but stick with me here. Numerous studies show that the mind can't tell the difference between a real memory and a powerfully visualized memory. One strong visualization to try is to picture yourself going out and having a great time without alcohol. When I first gave up drinking, I would visualize the entire evening. I'd imagine myself going out for the evening with some friends. I would imagine the restaurant we were going to. I'd imagine ordering a big steak dinner and, instead of the usual bottle of wine, visualize ordering a tonic and lime. And then I'd visualize myself laughing and laughing and having a great time. It worked. The brain can't tell the difference because when it has colorful, vivid, convincing pictures, it essentially tries to make those pictures a reality. So those visualizations are actually affecting your future reality. How cool is that? One mistake people make is to think about and visualize what we don't want. But the mind doesn't necessarily understand the word don't. You get whatever you think about, which in this case is the opposite of what you do want. So if you imagine, "I don't want to just be sitting there miserable," but you're thinking of yourself sitting there miserable, that's what your brain works from. It tries to make that scenario a reality. But if you think of yourself going out and having a great time, your brain tries to make that scenario a reality. Just saying it out loud doesn't work. You have to visualize all the nuances, the entire scene, and be as specific as you possibly can when you visualize. Mentally rehearse what you're wearing, what you're thinking, what you're saying. Take the time to sit for 5 or 6 minutes, set a timer, close your eyes, and go through the visualization. And don't worry and think, "What if this doesn't work?" Just try it. Be as specific as possible. If you want to boost the effects even further, add emotions to your visualization. How will you feel going out to dinner and ordering an iced tea? "I'm going to feel amazing. I'll feel so in control of myself and so proud that I'm having so much fun without alcohol." Then try to feel the feelings in the moment when you're visualizing. Get that excited feeling in your chest. Feel the tingling in your hands. Put that big smile on your face. The more emotions you visualize, the more powerful your visualizations will be. Today, think of the next stressful thing you're going to go through when you might be tempted to give in and have a drink. Maybe it's going out with your friends. Maybe it's just surviving another stressful day at work. Then go through the visualization exercise above and visualize the entire experience exactly how you want it to go. Make some notes about the visualization in your journal. Then, after the event, come back and write down what actually happened. Did you get what you expected? Did your visualization come true? Day 16 journal questions. Remember, all the wisdom you seek is actually inside you. The most important words in this experiment are the ones you tell yourself. Take some time to answer these questions here or in a journal, a voice memo to yourself, or simply by speaking the answers out loud for only you to hear. 1. Visualization. Think of the next time you might be tempted to drink. Think of it in detail and spend some time writing down your vision of the experience exactly as you want it to go. 2. Reflection. Return to your journal after the event or situation that you visualized above and write down exactly what happened. Was it what you expected? Did your visualization come true? And now we have ACT number 8. Alcohol is my friend. Awareness. Quote, "Alcohol helps me when I am feeling lonely," unquote. Many people feel like they're less lonely when they drink. It's like even if their friends don't understand them, Uncle Jack, Jack Daniels whiskey, and Old Granddad, bourbon whiskey, lots of whiskey, totally get them. It seems to keep loneliness away. I know this was true for me. You probably, or clarity. You probably do feel less alone when you drink. And at some point, you might have had a bad day and decided to try drinking alone. There's no one watching you when you drink by yourself, so you can drink a lot quickly. You, sorry. You don't have a social situation to slow you down. So your blood alcohol content rises fast and you feel that quick hit of happiness right away. It feels euphoric for that first 30 minutes or so. Naturally, when you've experienced this firsthand, the belief that alcohol fights off loneliness settles into your subconscious and makes itself at home. And when you drink to overcome pain, the alcohol actually has a more pronounced effect because it is a numbing agent than when you drink for pleasure. So what's actually going on? That first feeling of euphoria takes away any discomfort you were feeling earlier, the very discomfort that made you decide to have a drink. And you probably feel pretty good being alone, maybe for the first time in a long time. For most people, being alone isn't fun. It's awkward and uncomfortable. But when you add alcohol, suddenly it's great. So, of course, you feel like it's the booze that's fighting off the loneliness. It's nothing more than a chemical concoction, yet you can start to develop a friend like relationship with it. It's not that alcohol is your friend, it's that you feel the pain of loneliness less when you're drinking. Let me ask you some questions though. Since you started drinking alone, has your life become more or less solitary? In my experience, I looked forward to drinking, and when I was drinking alone, I could do it pretty much whenever I wanted. One woman told me she knew she needed to change when she started looking forward to her evening glass of wine even more than her kids coming home from school. Has your life become more social or less social since you started drinking alone? It's normal for people to start avoiding social situations, even ones where they used to drink with their friends, because they figure out they can drink as much as they want at home with no one judging them. And they don't even have to deal with people. Bonus. Soon you might find reasons to excuse yourself from any social situation so you can drink alone. Are you closer to or further away from the people you love? Your children, your partner? I thought my drinking brought me closer to my partner because I could unwind around him. But over the years, as I increased my drinking, I often found myself in bed with a glass of wine while he was downstairs watching TV. The alcohol actually drove us apart. Is drinking the only social activity your friends seem to do these days? You might be feeling lonely because alcohol is the only shared experience you have anymore. I remember when I stopped drinking, a dear lifelong friend I'd known since kindergarten stopped coming over to hang out. It was a long time before I finally found out that she didn't think we'd have anything to talk about or do if we weren't drinking margaritas together. This took me by surprise. I had no idea she felt like that. I'd known her for over 30 years and we'd only been drinking together for the past 10. Even though we had a huge shared history, she had this overwhelming fear because recently we only had alcohol in common. She was worried that it would be awkward. I told her that every new experience without alcohol took a little while to get used to and asked her to come over. It was awkward, or if it was awkward or uncomfortable, well, at least we'd get a good laugh out of it. She came over for the first time in 2 years, and we had the best time together. We talked about our families and politics and religion. We laughed until our stomachs hurt. We had so much fun connecting with each other that we completely forgot about the movie and hike we had planned. And now we're closer than we've ever been, all because we showed up and connected to each other. That was something that alcohol had been stealing from us all along, and we didn't even know it. Let's look at the external evidence for a minute. There are actual physiological reasons that alcohol robs us of our ability to connect with other people. Alcohol slows down the speed of your neurons fire in your brain. Alcohol slows down the speed your neurons fire in your brain. This means you think more slowly. You take longer to respond, and the longer the alcohol is in your system, the harder you have to concentrate just to speak at all. You don't retain much of what's happening around you. So you retreat further and further into yourself. Alcohol blurs the edges around what's actually going on. You also become emotionally withdrawn. Here's something to try during this experiment. Go out with a bunch of your friends while they're drinking and you're not. Then try to have a real heart to heart conversation with them. I can tell you immediately, no thank you. That does not sound fun. You'll find it's nearly impossible to get them to take you seriously. You can see it in their eyes that they're not entirely present. They're distracted. Maybe they're too quick to laugh or respond like they're trying too hard. If this behavior surprises you, realize you never noticed it before because you were drinking too. You were also withdrawn into your own little world. I didn't notice any of this until I stopped drinking. How can two people form a true and lasting connection when they're both worried about falling off their chairs? You have to have other times when you're not drinking with your friends if you want to experience a true connection and dispel any feelings of loneliness. Real human connection comes from being vulnerable. Researcher Brene Brown has centered her life's work on this idea. Think about it. When people seem completely put together and perfect, do you want to connect with them? Probably not. You might want to be like them, but you don't want to reach out and talk to them. That comes only when a person is vulnerable and shows their flaws as well as their strengths. Yet we try to pretend we're perfect all the time. We think if we pretend we're great, then people will want to be friends with us. But it's only when we admit that we are hurt or disappointed, when we're not perfect, that people connect and our loneliness subsides. Even if you and your best friend experience a drunken moment of weeping and a confessional, I love you, man, chances are pretty good that neither of you will remember it in the morning. Alcohol makes you think you're connecting when you're really withdrawn. If we truly want to combat loneliness, we need to be courageous enough to be raw and real. We need to talk about our struggles. The more I show up with my real stories, the more people come back with their own real stories. We're all struggling together. The more we pretend we have it all together, the more we push other people away. Drinking Annie was pretty good at small talk and making the jokes, but she wasn't great at making lasting connections. In fact, despite the perceived closeness and the fact that we poured out all our drunken secrets to one another, the people I drank with were not the people I drank with most were not the people I felt I could call on if I was having a hard time. As alcohol steals our ability to connect, the more alone we become. It masquerades as our best friend, and all our relationships become superficial. No one is truly themselves after even a few drinks, and we lose the ability to be truly vulnerable. We lose our chance for real, true relationships. As my drinking progressed, I found that it isolated me more and more. The more embarrassed I became about my struggle, the more I worried about people judging me, and the more I wanted to be alone with the bottle. Drinking often starts out as a social activity, but then it becomes something that we do alone and sometimes even in secret, driving us further and further away from true human connection. Turnaround. The opposite of alcohol is my friend is alcohol is not my friends or alcohol is my enemy. Come up with as many ways you can that the opposite as is as true or truer in your life than the original belief. It's a good one. Tomorrow is day 17. It's called Relieving Boredom Without Drinking. So I will see you then. Take really good care of yourself. I hope you're proud of yourself.